Thomas Beer back in the Motor City after a long and arduous vacation, marauding through the swamps with alligators and all manner of malfeasance. Snakes, reptiles of all dimensions.
Lots of bogeys.
Yeah, and Florida man. I mean,
Lots
Florida
of
man in
bogeys.
general.
Yeah.
Did you have any hillbilly encounters while you were in Florida?
Yes. Our third day, we went to this place. It's called Stan's. It's on the southern tip of Marco Island. And it is the biggest redneck get-together place.
On Marco Island? I thought that was hoity-toity.
Oh, it's hoity-toity. But on Sundays, Stan's is only open on Sundays.
They do dollar beers and the people come out of the strange woodwork?
They used to do dollar beers. Ain't a dollar anymore. They have a live band. It's probably 400 people, 500 people.
Really?
At this bar outside. Yeah.
So there was trouble afoot at the Circle K.
There was so many Trumpers there that if you were liberal, you would have never stepped foot in the place.
Do they give you like a quiz?
Girls got Trump on their boobs, Trump on their eyelashes, Trump on the everywhere.
It's a cult of personality.
I'm telling you.
Did they give you a quiz? Did you have to answer questions like...
Like stupid questions? That's what you're going to ask.
Did you see in living color at any point in your life? If you said yes, you're out. You can't get in.
No, maybe.
Okay. Maybe. There's no quiz though.
No,
at the
but
door.
you can just walk in. Just walk in.
But if you had anything tie-dye on, you probably couldn't get through the door.
Tie-dye's a no.
No.
Yeah, that means you're a little liberal, right?
All right.
That means you care about other people a little bit.
Well,
right?
yeah, I don't know if it's that.
Maybe.
I'm an independent. I'm an independent
I know.
thinker. I'm not going to get into the politics of what's going on. I will say that we do know a big Trump supporter from Divine Child named Dustin Cunningham.
Yes.
Are we outing him or did he have it on his front lawn?
He had a Trump on the front lawn.
Oh,
and he
sure,
had it
really?
electrified. If you tried to
the
grab
electrified
it,
version?
there's no question.
Just shocked the
Shocked
shit out of
He's
you?
got a camera on it. He sits there and watches it.
GoPro?
He probably sits there at night by
Posts
his front
the
door.
liberals that
and
jerked
just goes,
down his sign.
When you come up.
We talked about Dustin. Dustin went to Ireland, played American football with me and Eric Burton, who we were just on the phone with,
Yes.
the famous punter from Catholic Central. So Catholic League action, we got Divine Child and Catholic Central on the island of Ireland, and a lot of treachery was had on that island that weekend. There was some major malfunctions.
So the whole thing was
brain cells were getting shoveled out the window.
That whole trip to Ireland was one weekend.
No. We were there for a few weeks.
I thought you were there for a month.
We played a good bit of football.
Yeah.
A little touring Team USA type of thing. But as you like to mention, that you thought that some of the guys had their helmets on sideways.
No. Burton.
Some of the guys just walked off of a farm.
No. Burton said that he went up to the line. He was playing receiver. And he walked up, and the guy had his helmet on like this.
Sideways.
Yeah. And Burton's like, pew! He ran right by him and scored a touchdown.
He did. I tell you what, Eric Burton, not a punter in Ireland. In Ireland, they think he's a glorious wide receiver with all kinds of ball skills.
Oh, my God. He was the star of the game.
Dustin Cunningham showed up for 0 practices. But he did end up playing in the game.
So how do you do that? How do you show up for 0?
We literally asked the coach, we said, look, we got a buddy who's a little leprechaun bastard, and he will give you 40 minutes of ferocious football. The coach said, well, if we get up in this game, and then end up, we had a guy hurt.
If we get up.
We had a guy hurt, and I think they threw him right in the first half. I think he played DB in the first half.
What?
And he played, I'm telling you, with 0 practices.
Wow.
Cunningham came in as a DB.
I can hear him, too. He'd be like, Beer, I played DB in high school.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, he'd say something like that. I can play.
Cunningham was, and I attest to this because we came out the same year, in CYO football, 7th and 8th grade football. He might go down in history as one of the greatest of all time because he's exactly the same size.
He never grew.
Exactly the same build. And exactly the same ferocity. He destroyed people in 8th grade.
I tell this story a little bit in college in practice. I hit him a couple times as hard as I've ever hit anyone in my life. And I wasn't the best football player in the world, blah, blah, blah. I was good. But I hit him a couple times so hard, and he didn't say a word.
No.
Not one, not fuck off, not I'm going to get you.
Nope.
Not, you want to fight?
Pop up and jog back to the
He
huddle.
didn't even look at me.
Yep.
He didn't even look at me.
He's
Got
not
up.
made of flesh and bone. There's some other material.
I think he's got a little, what's that movie?
He's got some titanium, or what was Wolverine made of?
Oh, I don't know. I don't watch that shit.
Magnesium?
Magnesium? Yeah, lots of magnesium.
All right, we've chit-chatted enough. There's a lot of action to get into. We've taken you through the world of yesteryear with Catholic League football all the way back to the 8th grade. I think you've heard quite enough bullshit. Let's get into what's what. So it's been a bit. The Super Bowl has fully subsided, the monstrosity of that game. We talked about that a little bit. We had a chance in the past episode to honor Dwight Foster, a great alumni of the Detroit Red Wings who passed away far too soon in January. We're going to be releasing, you would have just heard if you're listening to this on schedule, a little more Kronk boxing action with John Lepak. But we're into basketball season. We're putting football behind us. We're into basketball season. And this is kind of where basketball gets interesting. We're after the All-Star break now for the NBA. We're approaching March Madness for the NCAA. The whole NIL has changed the landscape of the NCAA significantly. So let's start there, Tom, because we have 2 teams in the state of Michigan that are playing great basketball, that are tuning it up for a run in the NCAA. And I have to start out with an apology. Because if you remember, in our preseason basketball predictions, I said this might be the year that Tom Izzo is scratching and clawing more than ever to try to get this team into the postseason. Where are the points going to come from in this team? Blah, 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 blah. And boy, did he shove that right where the sun don't shine.
His guards have been playing great. They've been
21
making threes.
wins.
Yeah, the whole team has been playing great. I was looking at the top teams, and obviously none of the Big Ten is in the top 10, okay? But then you get down, you got Wisconsin, Michigan, and Purdue. I don't know what it is.
And Michigan State, all right there.
Yeah. And Michigan State is, one below them. But Michigan, with those big 7-footers, and they're good, I think they're going to be tough to beat in the tournament. It's something about them. Just how they play so physical, and they're good basketball players, too.
Yeah,
both 2 7-footers.
And that's a fair mention here, is that these Big Ten teams, while they all fall, Maryland is down at 20, while they all kind of fall in this mix of the teens in the ranking, that's largely due to the fact that they're annihilating each other.
Yeah.
Right? They're pumping up the losses side of the column by having to play each other at a high rate.
Yeah.
But you can't deny that even with the success of the Big Ten with Michigan and Michigan State, Dusty May at Michigan and Tom Izzo, who we've mentioned has done a miraculous job with the Spartans once again, the SEC is just a juggernaut in basketball.
Auburn.
Totally replaced
Auburn,
the ACC.
Florida, SEC too. Auburn, Florida, Alabama, Houston. Yeah.
Auburn, Florida, Alabama, Tennessee. You go all, and those are all top 6 teams.
Yeah. I know. They're playing well.
Auburn versus Alabama was the 1 versus 2 this past weekend.
Yeah.
We saw Auburn win on the road.
Yeah.
Okay, so Auburn beats Vanderbilt and beats Alabama on the road, solidifies them. I have no problem with number 1, them being number 1. Broome is probably a player of the year. Cooper Flag obviously has blown the top off of the ACC and the dominant performances at Duke. The one that shocks me at number 2 is Florida. I knew Florida was a good ball club. I knew they were a top 20 ball club, but 22-3, did not see that coming.
Yeah, in that league, they played well. Yeah, I really like Tennessee also. Lots of players, deep bench. They played teams tough. Iowa State is number 8.
Big 12.
Yeah, Big 12.
So Big 12, I love Iowa State. Texas Tech
They lost a couple.
They got Toppin from Arizona in the portal. They got Williams. So they did some business, Texas Tech, pulling some players in through the portal, using their NIL dollars. A lot of these teams, like Kansas, what happened to Kansas? Kansas is down here at 23.
You see
preseason number 1.
Look at their
schedule.
Spent
a ton of money.
Look at their schedule. They play a top 20 team almost every week.
Yeah.
Played tough teams.
But again, I look at the SEC with even Ole Miss and Mississippi State down at the bottom of the top 25.
I thought Marquette would be better.
Oh, they've slipped.
I know. They've slipped. I thought they would be a lot better. I think they got the best guard in the nation. I just thought they would be better.
Did you watch Creighton versus St. John's?
No, I don't watch that much college basketball, but
The Ashworth, I think, is the little point guard, and then they've got Kalkbrenner, the big player of the year candidate at center, the 7-footer who is a double machine. I thought Creighton got the short end of the stick with the refs in MSG playing against Patino, but St. John's. I knew Patino would turn this thing around quick, and I saw a statistic. In his second year, he's had pretty much the best season in all of the programs that he has ever been, going all the way back to Providence. So not shocking that this St. John's team in the second year has put the pieces together. They spent a little money on this team, bringing in some NIL prospects, but the defense that team plays, the full court action, because Creighton is no joke.
Oh, they're good.
They're going to be a tough out in the NCAA tournament. And St. John's did find a way to handle them in the fourth quarter. They were much, much, much more physical. Who are your top 4 seeds? When you look at these rankings, who do you think is going to come in and make a run bracket to bracket?
I mean, based on today's stats, Auburn, Florida, Duke, and Alabama.
You would keep it just as it is.
I think I would. I mean, who are you going to put above Alabama? They've beat most of the other teams. Duke is good. Florida, they've only lost 2 games.
I think any of the 3, Michigan, Purdue, Michigan State, even Wisconsin, I think any of the 4, if they make a run and then sweep through the Big Ten tournament, they could secure a number 1 seed.
Well, that's the problem, is we have so much basketball left in the next, month?
I would put Houston in a definite number one seed.
Just because they're going to win their conference.
All of those SEC teams, one of them is going to lose in the tournament, right?
Yeah,
one of them is going to go out early in the tournament.
Okay.
So one of those 3 SEC teams is not going to be a number 1 seed. And I think that's going to be Houston's spot. I think Calvin Sampson has them playing, and their backcourt is fantastic. And senior leadership at the guard position in the NCAA tournament is solid gold.
Yeah.
I think the same thing about Iowa State, but Texas Tech is right there at their heels. So I think Iowa State could make a run to a number 1 seed. Okay. Those would be the ones that
Auburn, Duke, Texas Tech, and Houston.
Nobody below Purdue, to me, can make a run.
No, you can't be out of the top 10. I mean, you can. Well, hold on. So if somebody wins the Big Ten, they don't get a number 1 seed?
So I'm looking at it right now. Michigan State at 20-5, the number 14 team in the country right now, is the last team, in my opinion, that could make a run to a number 1 seed, because they only have 5 losses. When I look at the number of losses that the rest of these teams have and how many I think they're going to end up with at the end of the season, to be a number 1 seed, you got to be like 25-6.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have to be in that ballpark.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting next 2 weeks when they go to the Big Ten championship.
And who do you think, based on what you've seen so far, the body of work, who do you think comes out? Who's in if you can't pick one, who's in the championship game in the NCAA?
You know what? I never picked Michigan, and I picked Michigan in football this year to win the national championship. Little did I know that they lost 16 guys that were on NFL rosters. I didn't do my homework on that. But I think Michigan is just going to be tough to beat. Have you ever guarded a guy that's 6 feet 6 inches taller than you? Yes.
Yes, I have.
Your whole life.
And it was
your whole life. It ain't no fun.
No.
And it's not everything being big. But they got 2 big men that are really, really good. And they've got good guards, and they've got good role players, and they've got good. I just like watching them play. I just don't think they've hit their stride yet. I think they're going to be tough to beat.
Yeah.
2 7-footers that can play.
I guarded Jalen Rose once in the summer. So.
No, you did.
Yes, I did.
No, you did.
And it was not pretty.
I've guarded 6'6" guys before. It's no fun.
It was not pretty. Emmanuel Bibb was a tougher cover, though. Emmanuel Bibb, who played was he the professor? Which was he the guy on And One? He was the And One guy.
The guy that dribbles through your legs.
He was the dribble. He was the dribble crazy.
You guarded
guy.
him.
Oh
too?
Yeah, he was Detroit Denby. We played him in the summer at the Saint.
Isn't he a white guy?
No, Emmanuel. That's a different guy. You're right. He was called the professor too.
Yeah.
What was Emmanuel Bibb called?
Emmanuel Bibb.
Something with the handle. He was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
But he was on the Super Friends with Weber and Jalen.
Oh, I got a story. The guard that played at Michigan State back in the 90s, white guy, about 6'1", all Big Ten.
Skiles?
No,
Scotty Skiles?
not Scotty Skiles.
After Skiles.
Oh, got it. So I play in this tournament. I go in this tournament, and I could play hoop.
You were a college basketball player for
Yeah,
a minute.
a little bit, but I really wasn't. But anyway, so we go to this tournament. You could tell that these guys played college basketball. We go out, and in the first half, this white guard, and he looked familiar to me, and he scored like 30 on me, and I was guarding him.
Yeah.
And when he's shooting, he's looking at me.
He
didn't
dropping bombs.
look at the basket. He looked at me. I'm like, what in the fuck?
It's a new fundamental.
Dude, he let up on me in the second half. He could have scored 60 on me in a pickup game. It wasn't a pickup game. It was a tournament game. But anyway, there's a whole different level, just like when we played football, when you went to Ireland. There's a whole different level of basketball that you think it is.
Yeah. So you're thinking that Golden, who I am not sold on, all right, so he's one of the Michigan centers.
Yep.
You know, Wolf is the big kid who's got more skills.
Yep. I mean, I think they're both going to be in the NBA. They're 7-footers that are pretty good basketball players, really good actually.
I watched Golden. It was a winning performance. The Ohio State game. It was a winning performance, but I watched him miss 4 layups in a row.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Spastic, like literally spastic efforts at the rim.
Yeah.
So that doesn't give me a ton of confidence in a big game.
He's got a little nastiness to him I like too, and toughness. In the NCAA tournament, I think they'll do well.
Yeah. I'm going to take Iowa State and Auburn in the final. So I'm going to go one favorite and one sleeper. I mean, not a sleeper. They're 8th in the damn country. But I really like Iowa State. I really like their guard play. They play great defense. They play full court basketball, intense. And Auburn, I think Bruce Pearl's got. This is the team for Bruce Pearl.
I think so. I thought I'd really like Marquette. I love their guard. I think he's the best guard in the nation.
I don't know who's going to knock Cooper Flagg out of this tournament, though. Duke is going to give fits and shits to every single team.
He's got really good players around him, too, and he's special. I'm with you. It's going to be interesting to watch.
Give me your final two. I just gave you Auburn and Iowa State.
I'm going to say Marquette.
Oh, Marquette is not going to turn this around. That ship is sinking.
Okay. Marquette.
So Marquette.
Marquette. I'm going to say Marquette and Duke.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't see who's beating Duke, so
No.
I'm with you.
Marquette.
I don't know. I pick Iowa State to somehow figure out how to beat them because I don't think they'll be in the same bracket as Auburn, but who knows? All right, so we're switching gears. We're going over to the NBA. We are at the All-Star break, and for the local folks, I don't think many people on their bingo card had your Detroit Pistons well over 500, 3 games over 500, sitting in the 6th spot, comfortably going to the playoffs at this point in the season if the season ended today.
I was thinking about that when I was watching them. What's different this year? And I think it's guard play. I mean, we still got Durham down low. Guard play has been great.
Well,
I mean, Cade Cunningham is
Beasley off the bench, Thompson. I mean, the high flyers are flying. Cade Cunningham's been outstanding. I mean, we're getting a lot of run nationally. The Detroit Pistons are getting a run, finally getting brought up as the up-and-coming team, and they're all young.
Yeah.
And this is one of the youngest teams in basketball.
Yeah, I talk about this all the time. Sometimes you got your good shit, and lately the Pistons have had their good shit. Look at the Kansas City Chiefs.
If I had to pinpoint the change, I would say Bickerstaff. It's in the coaching box. There's a different level of intensity that this team plays with for 4 quarters, and he's been able to fuel these young guys in a way that Williams was not able to.
Yeah. You know, my stance on coaching, I think it's overrated. But then again, when I really look, I look at our, when we were in college, we had no business being in a lot of games we were in. We just outworked people. We didn't have the talent.
It's motivational,
but
right?
Motivational
for young when they're young.
When they're young,
I agree with you. When you get a veteran team, the players take over.
Yeah,
right, and then you end
especially in the NBA.
Yeah,
I'm sure they call the plays almost.
And I heard this. I don't know if you listen to Bill Simmons at all or ever hear any of his stuff. And he said this for years that the NBA has become a league that props up its players more than any other league, that the players are supported and pushed forward as really the faces, and they celebritize the league, right?
Yeah, but Joe, they make $30, $40, $50 million a year, all of them.
So let's talk about what that has done to what I think most of us really loved coming up through childhood in the 80s and early 90s. The All-Star game is a joke now.
Oh, it's a joke.
It's the whole operation. Remember how much anticipation you had for the dunk contest?
Yeah.
What is the dunk contest?
No, the
now?
dunk contest was good this year.
McClung, though, is not an NBA player. He's a G League player.
I know.
He gets a cup of coffee once in a while.
Yeah.
He gets pulled up, and he becomes the centerpiece of the dunk contest. I don't think
It used to be, they had a special, Michael Jordan was on talking with Dominique Wilkins about, it used to be the best players were in that. Larry Bird was in the three-point contest.
the three-point contest is also a joke. You remember when Allen Iverson went, well, he only had 10 points in the entire round. I mean, he was terrible in the three-point contest. I think that what has happened now is none of these more candy-ass celebrity heroes, they don't want to be embarrassed. So they don't go into these. If they can't win it, if it's not fixed for them to win the dunk contest or win or be in place in the three-point contest, they don't want to risk it. It's like, if there ain't a big biscuit, I ain't going to risk it.
If I'm making $60 million a year playing basketball, I'm taking that week off. I know that's not what you want to hear.
Oh, that's
not what you want to hear.
Look at the opposite of that. Look what's happening in the NHL.
I'm with
the
you.
four nations
I'm with
that
those
count
guys,
as nothing at all.
They don't make $60 million.
Yeah, but they make millions of dollars, and they're playing their asses off. They're playing
and they're
injured.
fighting. I know. It's great. They got it figured out. I don't know what the answer is for basketball. What could you possibly do to make that game matter?
Simmons came up with a concept that hinges on the winner gets the home field advantage in the championship.
So it actually matter. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was principle number one, that it hinges on that.
It's got to be on money. You got to get him money.
There's a monetary bonus in there, which there already is some monetary bonus, but it doesn't matter to them.
10 grand or something. It's stupid.
It doesn't matter to them. They have tried to mix in this thing where they've got the rising stars against the OGs. It's kind of that level of, and then they're going to play against each other. But here's where Simmons's nuanced approach, I think, hits the mark. He came up with a plan where not only do they get the game 7, the 7th game goes to the winner of whether it's East or West, but also that in the final game, you can only have players from the top 5 seeds. So they're all actually going to be fighting for a game that they could be in the playoffs. Because his thing is these guys who are out of it already, who are the star of their team, there's no reason for them to give a shit because they're not going to be in that game 7. They don't even have a puncher's chance of being in that game.
I think what hockey did is a great thing. I think they had no idea how good it was going to be until the game started.
And
it's Olympics next year. So these players are playing to make the Olympic team.
Whether you blame Donald Trump for this or you thank Donald Trump for this, there is a climate right now between the United States and Canada.
No question.
To where this game benefits from the animosity.
Oh, this game tonight. I was asking, a friend of mine, Dylan, that he played 4 years at Notre Dame and played at Michigan State his last year, and he played with the Kachuk brothers. Right? And he said that was the best hockey game he's ever seen in his life.
My favorite quote in hockey history.
Dylan St. Cyr. Jesus.
Yeah. It was Ferraro. It was Ray Ferraro. He, at some point in the beginning of that game, he says, "This is the greatest hockey that I think I've ever seen." And I looked at the clock and there was only 9 seconds in that game.
They hadn't even touched the puck yet.
There was one rush.
That's going to be tonight, too. That's happening tonight.
Do you think they'll drop him on the faceoff?
It's happening tonight. So many people went crazy over it. I would be stunned if they didn't do it on the faceoff.
Kachuk has like 3 injuries,
though. No. I didn't say it's going to be. It's got to be somebody else. I mean, if you're hurt, it's got to be somebody else.
Somebody else has got to step up.
Well, it's like even the Canadian player that he ended up fighting, that guy wasn't even starting. He was a good fighter, so they put him in. They knew it was coming.
So McAvoy is out. The United States' best defenseman is out. Makar is in. Canada's best defenseman, who did not play in that game, is in. That trade-off unto itself could be 1 goal's worth of bad news for the United States.
Yeah.
Not that they don't have a fighting chance here tonight, but McAvoy out, Makar in, huge advantage to Team Canada.
Yeah, I mean, it's in Boston. I see what Trump does, and when he shows up and when he doesn't, he's going to be there. He is going.
Oh God! If
he
you think
is
that
going
matters
to be
to
there.
anybody,
Oh my God, that place is going to go nuts.
but to the players, does it has any? Is it going to give any
Absolutely.
energy?
Did you hear Kachuk talk about it? They said, "What do you want to be? You want to be Canadian or do you want to be American?" I'm American. Period. I'm American. I'm not a Canadian. I don't want to be a Canadian.
So I think we got Tage Thompson from the Buffalo Sabres. I think he's playing for USA as one of the replacements. I don't know who's replacing McAvoy in the D pairings. I'll have to look that up. And I heard Sidney Crosby is gave some speech already, but he's got the pregame fire him up speech. So they're taking this shit radically more serious. I'm air quoting this. The reason why maybe basketball has fallen into this funk as it relates to this game, back when we were growing up, basketball was played at a level of physicality that is non-existent today. Yeah. It isn't just that the three-point shot has taken over the NBA's game. It's also that the bad boys, the Portland Trail Blazers, the Knicks and Pacers, the rivalries and animosities of people who just did not like each other and played a physical brand of basketball that wasn't afraid to throw blows from time to time, a la Ron Artest and everybody in the Palace of Auburn Hills.
I think that's on any sport, Joe. Do you remember the time where Joe and I got in a fight in college, wrestling around on the ground? Coach sent us to the different ends of the end zone.
You tore my helmet off of my head,
well,
chin strap and all.
Well, you let me. So
I did not let you.
Yeah, you did.
You forced that series of events.
But anyway, we went to the end zone, and Joe and I were leaders of offense and defense, kind of. There was many other leaders, too. But when we went back in the huddle, it was on.
Yeah.
Okay? There's something about that. You need that in sports.
Yeah.
That I'm just going to, and you don't get you're definitely not going to get an NBA game and an all-star game. But that I'm going to knock your fucking head off thing.
I think
right?
I agree.
Do you remember? Do you remember that
you.
day? That's what, and it was like, dude, the whole team is bam, bam. All the hits are, you can hear them.
1,000% I agree with you. And I think what has happened to the NBA is they've fallen into a perfect storm. And I'll tell you what I mean by the perfect storm. The money is ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
That's Stormfront number
for
one.
everybody.
For even the bench players.
Even the bench players.
Right? The money is absolutely ridiculous on one hand. The endorsement deals have come in that also, if you can't play, right, if you're injured for some reason, right, the endorsements go up for grabs. Then you've got the situation with Europeans that have flooded the NBA market. Europe does not play at the same. Maybe Serbia.
It's a different,
Maybe Serbia, but
different.
The rest of Europe does not play.
Physicality's different.
With the same level of physicality that the U.S. game is played with. So you see those three things. Then you've even got little things. And I know some people are going to... medicinal marijuana and recreational marijuana. We know the NBA has always been a strong marijuana. Let's face it, right? If marijuana is a significant part of your life, you tend to be more chill from my experiences with people.
Definitely.
Less intense, right? Less intense, less megamaniacal when it comes to the goal set that you're trying to achieve, right?
Yes.
It puts your ambition at bay, just a tad.
It does.
Right?
It takes your mind off daily life, to say the least.
So if all this shit is going on in the NBA, if all these currents are simultaneously hitting the NBA,
and players are looking at their bank accounts, and there's $70 million in there. That is the biggest motivator.
Yeah.
By far.
No doubt.
I mean, good for them. Make as much money as you can. I'm not knocking anybody for making money. If you're making money and they're paying you, the owners are making 5 times, 10 times what you are. So you're due that money. But it doesn't make for good all-star games.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make for good all-star games. Look at the NFL. They're done. We don't even have one. They don't even put on pads. It's over.
They'll never do this, but I would say that you've got to be in the top 3 of the MVP voting in the All-Star game, in at least one All-Star game, to make it in the Hall of Fame. Or you're never going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh.
That would be a great line of because now everybody who's a star, who wants their legacy, who wants even a chance to be in the Hall of Fame, knows that they got to play their ass off in at least one All-Star game.
Yeah, I remember Michael Jordan in the dunk contest. He was the best. He was the best player in the NBA, and he's leaving from the free throw. That was awesome. Spud Webb and I watched those
Michael
things.
Cooper in the three-point against Larry Bird.
I want to say I watched that 50 times. No, 100 times when I was young. Over and over.
Tom Chambers and Magic Johnson.
Tom Chambers.
Crazy. But he had a crazy All-Star game, and everybody remember. Isaiah Thomas had like a 30-point All-Star game where he had 11 assists and 30. I mean, you had guys that blew up on that stage, and it became one of the most memorable events of their lifetime. First of all, do you remember we had multiple All-Star games that went into overtime?
Yeah.
On the last free throw, the last shot?
Yeah.
Nobody is even considering playing defense in these games.
You know, if you even talk to football players in the 60s and the 50s and 70s, we used to talk to them all the time, and they all had jobs in the offseason. It's a different world. You can't stop it. It just goes where it wants to go and changes what it wants to change, and the money is just gigantic. It just is what it is, Joe. We don't like it. We love it, though, when we see a hockey game. Who's not watching that hockey game tonight that's a sports fan?
A lot of this has done more.
And most people don't even don't even watch hockey.
This thing is doing more. This Four Nations is doing more for hockey fandom than anything I can remember in a very, very long time.
Yeah.
I mean, this has really. I'm hearing people on the radio. People are calling. Hey, did you see this?
So my buddy Mike Vellucci, he's a coach for the Penguins. He's an assistant coach, and we were down in Florida, and he's like, "Oh, this hockey, it's a big deal." I said, "It is?" He goes, "Well, yeah." He goes, "They got the Olympics next year, and they pick the Olympic teams off this, so a lot of guys will be playing hard, and they got pride." And I'm like, "They do for an All-Star game?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "It's different."
That's an interesting element. What if they translated that over to the NBA and you could not participate
in the Olympics
unless you were top 10 in the All-Star game? You can't.
That has a chance.
Or if you make All-Star MVP.
I still got $80 million in my bank account, but yes, that has a chance.
Yeah.
But when you got 150 million in the bank and you got a guaranteed contract, you can't get cut in the NBA. They cannot cut you. So they got to pay you.
So the national pride, you also have to keep in mind, you don't have the Russians.
Yeah.
Right? So it was Finland, Sweden. Now it's just down to USA and Canada. They're the two winners. Finland, Sweden are out. The international, and maybe it goes all the way back to Lake Placid, the 1980 Olympics, the Miracle on Ice. It's become such a legendary thing. Hockey is also internationally different in its hatred for one another. You know?
Yeah.
They're all on the same teams now, but for some reason, when they go to their separate corners and come out wearing their country's jersey.
Like Canadian basketball players don't give a shit about United States basketball players. It means nothing.
I don't think it has,
It means nothing. Mexico, it means nothing. But hockey, it's a Canadian sport.
It's also, if you remember, it's what made that whole Pan-American kind of games pretty cool for baseball. Because baseball, those Pan-American Mexico wants to beat Puerto Rico's ass. And they go back and forth. The Caribbean teams don't like each other kind of at that same level. Or at least they've got that same pride to win in that series of...
Maybe there's no way to change the NBA. It's just all American players, mostly American players.
Oh, Europe is coming in huge.
They're coming in, not huge.
Huge in the last couple of cycles.
No. Yeah, there's probably 3-4 players in each team.
Per team now.
Yeah, per team.
And some of them,
from Europe.
and most of them have a marquee guy.
Yeah.
It's changing, and I think that is hurting this all-star thing. So maybe they go to internationals versus U.S., the best international players playing against the best U.S. players in an all-star game.
Yeah, but the problem is, you know what would happen. It wouldn't be, it'd be ugly.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it'd be ugly.
All right, can't take this on air because it would take too much research, but I want to go down, like it would be Doncic, it would be Wemby,
You know what? There are a lot of players that are foreign that you think are American.
Jokic. I mean, you got
but Jokic, yeah.
I mean, these are the best players.
They
That's
are.
the MVP.
They are.
Luka has been up for the MVP.
Luka.
Wemby
Yeah.
is going to be up for the MVP shortly.
Yeah, maybe it wouldn't be as lopsided as I'm thinking, but
If you run the tail of the tape, I think, and the fact that they'd be playing harder, in my opinion,
Yeah.
to beat the U.S. guys.
yeah, maybe that would work, but it's still, I mean, it's just so much money.
Okay, so let's get down to it. Eastern Conference, Western Conference. Who do you like? Where are you coming out on the standings right now? I mean, obviously the Cavaliers have been the dominant team in the East.
Celtics, obviously.
OKC is running away with the West.
Yeah. I still like the Memphis Grizzlies.
You still think they can make a run?
I still think
catch
they can make a run. Denver Nuggets are playing well.
Well, we just mentioned Jokic and Murray.
Yeah.
The Rockets are on a major skid right now. They've only won 3 out of their last 10 games, but they're 13 games over 500.
You know, and I like the Lakers, and I watched the game the other night.
How long is it going to take Doncic to fit in?
I don't know. He's not fitted in right now. It's tough when you're playing with someone that's dominated the game for 20 years and demands the ball in the last second. It's not you. They're not looking at you. It's not impossible. It's just difficult. I don't know. Probably another couple weeks.
Are the Suns going to make a run and get in, or are they sellers at the trade deadline and Durant's gone?
Probably sellers. I mean, Durant's getting old, I think. I mean, he can't do what he used to do.
Warriors, Suns, and Kings. When you started the season with Fox, Curry, and Durant on those 3 teams, now Fox is gone. They're thinking about dealing Durant. Warriors don't know. I mean, they're all out of the playoffs right now.
Yeah.
Would not have expected that, and certainly would not have expected the Clippers and the Rockets to be well in the playoffs.
They've had injuries, though. When you lose your first players, your starters, and you lose them for months, it affects your team.
So if you had to go into the Western Conference Finals, you're going in Thunder and Grizzly, the 2 top teams, as they stand right now.
No question. I mean,
you don't think any of the rest can catch up?
I like Denver. I watched them the other night. I like Denver a lot. But, yeah, you're not going to beat OKC or Memphis, I don't think.
And are the Celtics just kind of sitting there at number 2, letting all this stuff happen, and then they're going to turn the screws?
Have you seen it if you watched the game when they turn it on?
Yeah,
with Tatum and
they're just defensively, they're just it's Brown and Tatum.
Do you see the defense that Brown can play when he wants? No, when he wants
Best
to.
defender in the NBA.
When he wants to.
Yeah,
he's locked down when he wants to.
Hands down.
So.
Best defender in the NBA.
You know, how do I say this? Seems like the NBA, they kind of coast a little. It's a long season, right? Yeah. You're running every day.
We remember when we did our little preview episode, we knew, we mentioned, hey, the Milwaukee Bucks could put this back together, and the Pacers. Remember, both of them started weak. Now they're sitting there at number 4 and number 5. They're solidly in the playoffs. So they did exactly what we thought they'd do. And, Giannis, right? The Greek Freak sat out the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards for the Timberwolves sat out the All-Star game.
There's a reason.
LeBron, minutes before the game.
They're not getting hurt. They're preparing for the playoffs. They're resting their legs. They run like I can't imagine playing in the NBA that many games. Even hockey. My buddy Vellucci tells me all the time. He goes, we go on a 12-day road trip. We play 4 games a week. 4 games a week for 2 or 3 weeks. He goes, it's crazy. He's just standing on the bench. But you think about that. He's standing on the bench for 5-6 hours. Go stand up for 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah.
We're 55 years old.
We're
not 20 anymore. So it's tough. It's tough. It's a grind.
Especially for guys who have been marauding around the Florida and the wilds of strange
bars.
I
think Mike was down there for 8 days. He played 8 days in a row.
Oh.
I was done after like 3.
Who's going to break into this Eastern Conference? First of all, are the Pistons going to maintain? Are they going to maintain? Are they going to make the playoffs?
If the guards keep playing like they've been playing, I think our guard play's been.
If ifs and buts were cherries and nuts, it'd be Christmas all year round. Tell me what I want to know, devil woman.
No. I think no. They're
Pistons
not going to
slip.
I think they're going to slip. I just don't think that if you really look at our team, it's not a whole lot different than last year. It really isn't. Couple players, and we got a new coach.
I think the Pistons are susceptible to a slip, But when I look at the teams behind him,
Yeah, there's just it's not like they're
I don't know if anybody. It's like kind of like who wants it the least. Like these teams are not good basketball teams, and they're not trying to become good basketball teams. It's like the Eastern Conference. The second half of the Eastern Conference is a bunch of teams playing for a draft pick next year. I mean, it's really dog shit at the bottom of this conference. I mean, they're thinking about selling off Embiid, right? The Sixers are in the 11 slot. If Embiid gets traded, that could be a seismic shift in the conference.
sure.
If he's not a head case for where he goes. So who could plug him in? Who could plug in Embiid? Is it is it the Lakers and they try to go super team to replace Davis?
I mean, who couldn't plug in Embiid if he's not a problem?
Well, he is a problem.
I know
obviously.
he's a problem.
Flipping cancer for the 76ers.
For the locker room, for everything. Yeah, who wouldn't want him? I mean,
a lot of teams that have a good,
probably
a good dynamic.
Like OKC.
A good locker room.
OKC does not want him, but who knows?
He could turn the Cavaliers, and they're already sitting at number 1. Right, but if the Cavaliers find a way to mix him in, then okay.
What's his cap? I mean, it's got to be 60.
It'd be a lot of restructuring going.
Yes,
but there's going to be that wherever he goes with a
yeah.
contract that big.
Yeah,
right. I mean, unless he goes to some garbage squad.
Why would he do that?
Why would you do that? You got to give me your finals in the Eastern Conference. Who's going to be? Is it? I mean, you pretty much told me Celtics. Who's going to play the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals?
Cavaliers.
So you're staying 1-2, 1-2.
Yeah, I think so. I think the Knicks have a chance if they start playing much better, and they have been playing pretty good as of late. And I do like the Pacers too.
I can't trust Brunson.
Why?
To be hot every night.
No.
And to beat if you've watched them against the great teams,
to beat them, he has to be.
To compete, he has to be at the top of his game against the best teams.
Yeah.
And I don't know in a 7-game series against really good defenders if he can stay hot for 4 wins.
That's accurate. Kind of think the same thing when I watch him. It's just the Cavaliers and the Celtics. They're so long. They're so
No, every shot's contested.
Every shot's contested. They play great defense, and when they want to lock you down, they lock you down.
Yeah.
That's what I've seen. So, do I think the Knicks can beat them in a 7-game series? No. I don't know who else would have a chance. Maybe the Pacers.
I want to give you a Mount Rushmore question for something that you hate. Basketball coaches. You always said that it is overrated. I think coaching is not overrated in basketball. It might be overrated in football, especially at the NFL level, but I don't think coaching is overrated in basketball because it's 5 guys and it's a lot more scheme.
Yeah.
You have a lot more control over 5 guys on a field than you do over 11 guys on a field.
Maybe.
The plays, the offense, the scheme,
so you're
especially in college. And
so
the
you're
pros,
telling,
it's turned loose.
So you're telling me that the head coach of the Chicago Bulls had control over Michael Jordan?
No, but Phil Jackson certainly set up a system that furnished and facilitated Michael Jordan's excellence.
I think Michael Jordan set up the system.
I don't think so. The triangle and 2.
Yeah.
What was that? Texas offense, Phil Jackson's morale building, and Zen Buddhism.
It's obviously a mixture of both, but nothing like a stud player.
I hate that I'm saying this. I'm going to switch back to the college basketball world for a moment because I really have a problem with some of the things that this guy did from a character level, but I try to extract myself from people's character when I'm judging them for what they are in their profession.
Oh, I know. I've felt it.
Rick Pitino is now the fact that he's doing it again at St. John's after he has done it in so many places.
I think you have to have, and people always, not to switch, I'm cutting you off. You have to have a unbelievable passion to be a coach because most of the time, up until you get to the D1 level, it's thankless. And it doesn't pay well, and you have to move your family, and your wife's going to leave you, and your kids are going to hate you because you're never going to be home.
And he just doesn't care about the wife and the kid. He proved that.
Yeah. But you've got to have a passion for it. I mean, just like Tom Izzo. Should he still be there? He's
Not only does he not care about his wife, he doesn't care about your wife.
Yeah. But you've got to have that passion where you're going to stay in and watch game film and have a cot and sleep in a room and not go home during the week. And all the NFL guys do still.
I'm amazed by Tom Izzo's run and becoming the all-time winningest coach, passing Bobby Knight in the Big Ten, becoming the all-time winningest coach in the Big Ten. He had multiple opportunities to leave. Dan Gilbert wanted him to coach the Cavaliers. I don't know how many times.
Yeah.
Rick Pitino obviously took a cup of coffee in the NBA, but he's been back and forth. He's done it. These guys don't need to work anymore. They obviously love basketball more than life itself.
I'm not sure they love basketball. You know, there are people that love the spotlight, and they love being on ESPN. They love that feeling of going to a family party and everybody saying, yeah, there's the coach of the St. John, whatever that is. You know, it's like waking up every day with a purpose, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with coaching. I think you get used to that level of respect, right?
Yeah.
And you don't ever want that to go away. I'm going to do that till I die.
It's even the sons of these coaches, right?
Yeah,
They go
yeah.
into coaching and follow them in coaching. You know, New Mexico, what is New Mexico now? 22-4. They should be ranked. They're going to win the Mountain West. They're going to be a tough out of the tournament. I look at these teams and I look at these coaches. I'm amazed by Izzo. I'm amazed by Pitino. You know, Bill Self in Kansas. We talked about him in the preseason. When you look at these guys and you had to put the greatest of all time, let's just stick with college basketball because I think we both agree that there's more scheme that once you get to the pro level, you're rolling out the ball and turning them loose in some cases.
Yeah. God, are you asking me the best
I'm
college
putting you on the
coaches?
spot.
Pitino. I mean, he's got to be in there.
All time, though.
Bobby Knight.
Bobby Knight's on Mount Rushmore.
Probably Izzo. He's right up there.
Izzo's in the conversation.
Yeah, he's won the national championship.
Historically, you can't even talk about this list without John Wooden and Dean Smith.
Yeah. From Duke.
Mike
Krzyzewski.
Coach
K. Coach K, no question.
Roy Williams, another one who bounced between Kansas and North Carolina.
Yeah, and the old coach from Kentucky.
Calipari. Before him, it was Adolph Rupp, was the legendary one from way back in the day. Coached Pat Riley, who's another great coach in the history of basketball.
Yeah, that's about all I have.
Yeah. When you get to that rarefied level of air, and you start talking about John Wooden and Dean Smith, if you're going to put Bobby Knight, John Wooden, and Dean Smith on the list, Izzo and Pitino, maybe Bill Self, it gets real. Coach K, Krzyzewski. I mean, you're not talking about very many guys.
Yeah. I think coaching is more of kind of survival, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
How do you survive? You're going to have bad years, even if you're Pitino. He didn't have many, but you're going to have some bad years. It's more about survival. It's about the people around you and the place that you're coaching and making sure that they're happy with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And they're understanding your message.
I mean, I even think back, like Lou Carnesecca and John Thompson. Remember the Big East was John Thompson and PJ Carlissimo.
Yeah.
And you had not just Carnesecca, but Raleigh Massimino at Villanova.
And the coaches didn't like each other.
Yeah, there was a little bit of feuding.
There was a little bit, yeah.
I think our final moment here on the podcast is that final honor. The Big Ten all-time winningest coach, Tom Izzo, right here in our own backyard.
From Northern Michigan.
From the UP, from Iron Mountain, from Northern Michigan University, is the all-time winningest coach in the Big Ten. Congratulations. What an amazing honor. And for the Spartans, sitting with 20 wins, fighting for a Big Ten championship where I had no belief that they could be at this point in the season. They have taken on all the detractors and proven themselves worthy, and Michigan right there alongside them. So it's going to be a very interesting March Madness. Yes. When we come back in the next episode, we're going to do this same thing with hockey. We'll be through the four nations, so we'll know who won, Canada versus USA. We'll have a good look at the NHL run to the Stanley Cup, and we'll talk a little bit about the Frozen Four in college hockey and what that looks like on your next episode. Please go out into the world, take this wonderful knowledge that we have handed to you, and be the GOAT at whatever it is that you're doing today.